So one of the features of the channel is doing the worst of all time, or the worst films of the year, worst films of the decade, so on and so forth. And the list is fairly long, and I'm probably going to keep adding a lot of entries even this year. But I try to be positive and not just do negative reviews. And this is a positive review, but not as positive as I wanted to. Captain Marvel, which is technically what he is. So, who or what is Captain Marvel? Well, it's a little complicated, and the film honestly isn't all that clear. It seems what Shazam is the embodiment of several gods, and what Billy, the hero, does is shout the word Shazam, and he becomes kind of this embodiment of these various gods, and is incredibly powerful, nearly invulnerable, can fly, and so on and so forth. And before you say, oh, Superman ripoff, it's a little bit more complicated because actually both characters have usually borrowed from one another, and it's more on the Superman side. Yeah, the Superman people took a lot from Shazam, but finally, at long last, he has his own film. He had apparently a show briefly on television. I knew nothing about that, and I've watched The Incredible Hulk. I've watched a lot of superhero television stuff, Spider-Man animated series. I was not aware of the Shazam show, but yeah, he had a little time on the television show. So, basic verdict, was Shazam good? It was good. I liked it for the most part. It's basically trying to do a kind of lighthearted comedy of how Billy becomes a hero and adjusts to his powers, and they have a lot of fun goofing around and testing the powers and figure out, who am I? What am I? What is going on here? How did I get these powers? And I was gonna be afraid that the villain was gonna be a little too stupid, but no, I thought the villain mostly made sense. It was mostly well done. So it's good, but it wasn't very good because I think what they tried to do, and we can't avoid this now with Strange out in theaters, they're mixing kind of comedy and horror as well as a coming of age story. And like each part is fine, but it's not excellent. Whereas I think Strange, you can have a lot of issues with the plot, pacing, and some of the characters, but the horror vibe is really strong. It's fairly creative. There is a lot of homage, don't get me wrong. It's very derivative in certain places, but overall, I felt it was a strong story and a very strong nod to the horror elements in the Strange comics. This is a little new for Shazam. Shazam does sometimes confront horror monsters, but it's not really a horror kind of story. And they do integrate the horror elements mostly fine, but it's not like Strange, where they're like, whoa, it's pretty shocking, sometimes even scary with what they do. Here it's kind of like, okay, it's well done in certain places, but in other places, it's kind of poorly done. It's functional and it's okay, but it wasn't as good as it should have been. Some of this, of course, is because this is a bit lower budget. So we get a lot of action scenes, a lot of special effects shot, but it doesn't have that Zack Snyder polish. It's not like Steppenwolf, or Steppenwolf, they really did a great job of the way he looks, the way he's designed, the way he moves about. The horror creatures here look really good in a lot of shots, but I have to say, and it's not really the main actors, but some of the peripheral characters that kind of threw me out of this, because there's this one shot where this monster is near this kid. The kid doesn't care. He's kind of like indifferent. He's like, oh, okay, this monster's near me. Now, I realize child actors are difficult, but the director should have been really much, much more alert. So there are certain places where it's not a plot hole, but you're like, I was a little frustrating. The story itself is kind of anticlimactic. We know that Billy's going to win. Again, this is a lighthearted thing. This isn't like BVS. This isn't Man of Steel. We know mostly everyone's going to be okay. He's not a Punisher, Wolverine characters. This is not Logan. So the chances that this is going to turn into a really ugly, bloody thing, it's not going to happen. And right from the beginning, rest assured, there are some deaths. That is true. But in terms of the main characters, we know very early they're safe. There's not a lot of dramatic tension in a horror movie if you know the main protagonists are not going to die or even be substantially hurt. So there we are. But did I enjoy watching this? Yes. Would I recommend it? Yes. I thought the comedy mostly worked. I thought the lead performances were adorable. I thought their introduction to Shazam mostly well done. If you're a complete outsider, I think they did an adequate job. I came in expecting this to be a nice kind of change of tone and pace, because I do love Snyder. I like the Snyderverse. I have no problem with that. I'm not tired of it being bleak or dark. But I thought, okay, let's go down a different path of what Hamada or some of the other creators want to do, Jeff Johns and others, and if this is what they have to offer, you're like, okay, we basically went from excellent storytelling with Snyder and BVS and Man of Steel and Wonder Woman. Again, you can have a lot of issues with those films. That's fine. You can have legitimate debates on certain scenes and certain parts of the mythology. I have no problem with that. But overall, the storytelling is really, really, really good. It's either good or really, really strong. And here it just feels a little bit more weak. And it's fine for what it does. You'll definitely enjoy yourself. But does it leave you hungry for more? Do you want to see more Shazam? I was like, yeah, I do want to see more Shazam, but I'm not obsessed with the next Shazam film. I thought they did an adequate job. I hope the character appears again, but if this was his debut to become a great obsessive fan, they failed. They didn't do that for me. But I've read only a few Captain Marvel comics, and I usually try to bone up on everyone. So maybe Captain Marvel is not for me. I don't think so. I'm open to the character, but yeah, they did a good job. Again, recommended. It's a 7 out of 10. It did what it needed to do. And if you're tired of the Zack darkness, this is definitely not that. This is much more lighthearted. It only has a few dark moments, and those are, fairly moderate. But given all the hype surrounding this thing, I did want more. I really wanted this to be a lot stronger and to give it a much better grade. But that is, I think, the honest opinion I can arrive at with Shazam. Well done, but still just above average superhero tale.